think of me when you drive down my road?
Huh?
Do you think of me when you drive down my road?
Okay. No,
Slay now.
He's like,
because I don't know what the speed limit is on your road.
It's 35.
Yeah.
dropping your kids off at the high school. Does everybody think of me as they pass my house at Mach speed?
Good evening and welcome to the January 16th, 2024 regular Salem City Council meeting. It will now come to order. We will have the invocation given by Erica Lefevre from Allegheny Wesleyan College, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord Jesus, thank you for the privilege of being here this evening and for all the blessings that you've given to each one of us. Thank you that we are privileged to be here in America, Lord, and the freedoms that you've given us, the wonderful privileges that we have to serve you, Lord. Thank you for the freedoms that we have and for all that you've done in each one of our lives, Lord. I pray that you just be with each one tonight as we're in this meeting. I pray that you would just work out your will and be near to each one. Thank you for all that you do for us, and we ask this in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bear? Here. Ms. Bricker?
Here.
Mr. Gano?
Here.
Mr. Newman?
Here.
Mr. Knoll?
Present.
Mr. Stockman?
Here.
Mr. Zellers?
Here.
7 members.
Thank you. Everyone has received a copy of the January 2nd minutes. Are there any additions, changes, or deletions? No? We do not have any petitions this evening. Moving on to receiving of visitors. Mr. Tarleton?
Thank you, Ms. President. I want to sort of ask you a question, and it'll probably apply to everybody, and then I'll get to the main thing I want to talk about. You folks are all elected and appointed to represent everybody in the community. And I know if you want to do what I'm doing right now, you have to sign up to speak. But at the end of the meeting, you always go around and give everybody sitting up there the opportunity to say anything they want to. Why don't you open that up to the community? Last council meeting, I would have welcomed all of you here for the new year. My new board councilman I just met tonight, I might even comment, going to use the wrong word, commend some of you, especially Andrew right here. I've known his dad since we were in Cub Scouts together.
Don't hold that against me.
No, the amount of paperwork that you apparently have to do, I think that's what everybody else does put together, just watching what goes on. I wouldn't have your job for anything. But just a thought, maybe
We're
For-
checking into it to see
if it's allowed.
what the council rules say.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to mention that to you since you're sort of the boss up here tonight.
I don't want that responsibility. Don't put that all on me.
Well, you are, aren't you?
I am, I guess.
Okay, what I'd like to talk to you folks about tonight is about an announcement that I heard first 1 week ago last night. That announcement being about the closing of our local Bureau of Motor Vehicles. The announcement may have a great effect on every member of Salem and the surrounding area who own or drive a vehicle, go for an Ohio license or an ID. And that announcement that I'm talking about is about the closing of the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. This decision made by whomever will cause a huge inconvenience for many residents, young and the older folks, all of us. And will also cause a loss of 6 jobs here in town. I don't really think that's what any of us want to see happen. Anyway, in the past week, I've talked to quite a few residents in the community, at the different restaurants and on the streets and so forth, about this subject. They've asked me, I don't know why they thought I would know, but they've asked me what caused this and what can be done to stop it. My answer to them has been, I have no idea, but it probably has something to do with politics. The next question has been, are our local elected and appointed officials doing anything to stop this? And the only thing I could tell them was, I have no idea, but I'll come here and ask you folks tonight what you're doing to stop this. So here I am asking for a show of hands for those of you who took time to go to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles on Second Street and even ask, what can I do? What can I do to help stop this? Anybody else go? 2 of us in the whole place? The second question, now listen, I'm not trying to put you folks on the spot, really. But something's got to be done about this. Those of you that have the influence in the local political parties, maybe it needs to start with you and jump up to the county officials and up to the state and find out what's going on. Every time I've been in that motor vehicle bureau, they're loaded with business. Now, I'm not going to get into Mrs. Gray. She showed up unbeknownst to me, so she's probably going to say some things, but the word I got through the grapevine was that the state of Ohio didn't feel that this area warranted having its own Bureau of Motor Vehicles because they don't do enough business. Anybody here believe that? So, maybe some of you made phone calls, asked some questions of people. I don't know whether you did or not, but Ron's the only one that stuck his hand up when I asked if anybody took the time to go over. So I'm hoping that after tonight, maybe you folks can tell us in the rest of your meeting what some of you have done, if you've done anything. And if we haven't, it needs to be a combined effort between all you folks and the rest of us to try to put a stop to that. Thank you very much.
Is it Robin? Robin Gray, do you want to step up?
My first question would be, did everybody get a letter? The letter that we, okay. So you're aware of the situation, I'm assuming by now. The License Bureau's been there for 33 years. I walked in the door the day it opened. It has been a sustainable business. There's no reason to think that it cannot be sustained into the future. They're basing their decision, they as the Bureau, gave me numbers. And much to her surprise, the numbers didn't change from the year 2012 to 2023. So I'm not comfortable with this decision that they've made. I'm not agreeing with them. From where I stand as a deputy, I am retiring June 29th. That was the plan. My plan was to retire. My contract is up. What normally happens is they put an RFP out, a bid. You go in on the website for the Bureau of Motor Vehicles and you print out your paperwork, which is what, this is Erin back here. She's my office manager. Our intentions was to bid. 2 days before the RFP came out, they called me to tell me that my agency was not up for bid. They were closing. I was stunned, literally. I was stunned. because we have been and always, I think, would be a sustainable business. But they didn't want to set her up for failure. How kind of them. I don't know, I can't personally call the Bureau and say, why are you doing this to me? And I don't feel like, we had a representative from the state come in, again, explain the numbers. The numbers aren't making any sense. There's no logical explanation. I would like an answer, an honest answer, because we are busy. And we probably serve as many Mahoning County residents as we do Columbiana County. Mostly northern Columbiana County, a lot of Mahoning County. People, and I'm not bad-mouthing any other agency, I'm just saying, if you go to Boardman, you're gonna wait 2 hours. If you go to Lisbon, we have over 100,000 residents in Columbiana County, correct? We will have one agency in Columbiana County, one. It's absurd to think that there's not gonna be a wait time. They think because you're doing online, you now have the option to renew your driver's license online. They think because an 8-year driver's license is now an option, that this turnaround in this 8-year period, they're calling it 2 years, is going to start reflecting business. No, it's not. It's not. This is my business. I know my business. I know my numbers. I know my people. I know my customers. We have nursing homes that bring their clients to us from, east. We have them bring them to us. They'll bring 3, 4, 5 at a time. What are these people supposed to do? We've had customers come in and say, what am I gonna do? I don't drive. I have an ID. How am I going to get from point A to point B where they're telling me I have to now go? I just need your help. I am not benefiting from this in any way whatsoever. Like I said, my last day is June 29th. I'm retiring. But I think the community is going to suffer greatly because of this decision. There's revenue, that come in. They come to the License Bureau, they go to Walmart, they go to have lunch or dinner or whatever. It's not numbers, it's not just numbers, it's people. It's affecting the entire community. I have numbers. If you want numbers, I can give you numbers. I can give you numbers. I'm not comfortable with the situation. I don't understand. So if you need anything from me, I will be more than happy to supply you with statistics, numbers, anything. If there's anything you can do to help me, I would appreciate that too. Again, it's not me, it's the community, it's my employees who won't have a job after the 29th, which they have absolutely no concern about at all. So, yeah, I'm sure, I don't know if Cindy has been to the License Bureau to get your registration or your driver's license or your permits for your kids, or, I just feel like there's something we should be able to do for Salem, for the community. Not for me, I don't care, but for the community. So, yes, sir.
Have you heard anything from either one of our elected state legislators?
Erin had,
Monica Glasgow said that she had talked to the Department of Public Safety, but she was waiting to hear back.
okay, yeah, we've contacted our, local politicians. We've contacted them, and so I'm kind of hoping you'll help somehow. Yes?
So, couple questions.
Mhm.
Why do you think they're doing this? Why do you think the state is not allowing you to continue? Do you think they really believe the business won't be here shortly, or do they think it's cheaper to do it online?
I honestly don't have an answer for that question. When she presented the numbers to us, she was, and Erin can attest to this, she was shocked as she was going through from 2012 to 2023, that our numbers, and I really think she thought that, I think she was being the gopher, you know, you go tell her this. The numbers had not changed. And she herself was even shocked to see that the numbers that she thought was there were not there. They weren't there. And even if it does decrease, wouldn't that, you know, a 5-year, normally they give 5-year contracts. They will give you a 5-year contract, then you rebid the contract. Even if that's the case, why not 5 more years? Because this isn't just gonna affect the Salem License Bureau, it's going to affect every license bureau. Business is going to decrease according to them and the numbers.
So, can you give us contact information of people we can write to or try to contact?
If you go to,
Because when I tried, it's like you get shuffled around to a million different lines, and you're on there forever, and then you can't stay on anymore.
well, that's the 844 number that you're calling,
Yeah.
which is the go-to phone number. And
But
see,
if
and that's
we could
another
have a
thing.
more direct
We
way to
do.
contact
We
them?
do, and I meant to write his, Charles Norman is the registrar for the state of Ohio. He is on the BMV website. It's Charles Norman. I don't know if they have like a little, like, group that they get together and say, okay, we're gonna look at these numbers and, oh, yeah, this one's not good. We're gonna do, there's only 3. I don't,
That's okay, you.
well, I don't know how many agencies, Aaron, do you know the number of agencies that were for bid? Did you?
There were over 2 dozen, or at least about 2 dozen up for bid. I mean, Gypsy Lane and Mahoning County was up, but with at least 3 in Mahoning County now that they're down to.
I think 4, because Austin Town. So they still do have 4 in Mahoning County. Is
'Cause I
Mahoning County
asked
bigger
about
than Columbiana County?
They used to have 5 or 6.
Yeah.
When you say revenue numbers, or I'm sorry, when you say numbers, is that revenue and expenses, or are you just seeing the revenue numbers?
Okay. We do about 70,000 transactions a year, okay? They break them down into vehicle registrations, driver's license, reinstatement fees, but our report is much more, it's more involved. We do VIN inspections, we do notary service, we do, Aaron, help me.
Self-certs for CDL.
CDL, self-certifications, we do many of those. We do, there's more, they have a number of 60,227, you know, where my totals might come up to 70,000 because of these other services that are offered, but they don't count that as a transaction. So it does become a little bit more involved, and I do have some numbers here, and a list of like what our transactions, what we do, you know, a day, on a daily basis. It's not the same every day, obviously. Today was not good because the weather was not so nice out, but numbers as in, I'm assuming they're talking about transactions, as in, i.e., their example was driver's license. Because the 8-year turnaround, you know, because it's not in every 4. But I'll tell you, another thing too is when we offer that 8-year, the majority of people don't take the 8-year. They'll only do 4 years, especially if you're 21. You're gonna get married, you're gonna have an address change, you're not gonna wanna get a driver's license for 8 years. Now, if you're 40, because you can do them from age 21 to 65, you have that option, you can do that. You're established, you're already married, blah, 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 whatever. But a lot of people don't have the money. They don't wanna pay double, because it's double, and they don't wanna pay it. So those statistics are not nearly what they say they are. They might be throughout the state, but they're not in this area, geographical area, or the demographics. They don't get our demographics here. They don't get it. They don't. I've told them so many times, because a customer will come in, and I don't know if you've all been in there or not, but an older or elderly person will come in and they'll look at that iPad like they don't know what to do with it. You simply type in your name and you tell us why you're there. They don't want anything to do with it. Nothing. That's a big deal. That's a big deal here. Compassion, you know, a little bit of, I don't know. I just don't.
Mrs. Gray, does
Yes.
the state offer an alternative process for elderly folks or those who don't want to use a digital service? They're saying,
What we do,
Yeah.
we either go out and help them, if we're busy. We'll either go out and help them or just tell them, you know, we see that you're next, don't bother. You know, you don't have to do it. And we did have a number system, which, when you get people into a habit, it's really hard to break them of that habit. So they come in and they say, where's the numbers? We haven't had numbers for, it's been a while, but they still want numbers. But no, they don't. There's no alternative or option other than to pay attention, you know, see that somebody's having a hard time, and then you say, don't worry, you're next, we've got you. Are they gonna do that in a bigger agency where they don't have time to do that? Anyway, yes, sir.
Is this somewhat unique to this particular situation, or are we seeing a wider trend in the state of Ohio where there's more being denied and saying they're not making the revenue goals? I mean, is it a bigger picture thing where they're trying to downsize everywhere?
Here's the thing about the revenue, okay? It has nothing to do with the state. The state's going to collect their revenue no matter what. They get their money, period. What is left over is what I collect. I pay rent, I pay utilities, all the overhead. I pay payroll, I pay everything.
I understand that, but I thought you said somebody looked at your revenue numbers and made assumptions about them.
Yes, sir.
This happened to two other BMVs in the state, and when she showed us the numbers, like I could plainly see the first one, in 2012, it was 33,000 transactions. Last year, it went down to 30. She went to the second one, and I didn't get as good of a look at the numbers.
It was in the
but
40s.
similar. It was up in 2012 and down. She went to ours in 2012, we were at 50,000. This last year, we ended at 60. So we were the only ones who went up that many transactions, and we're still getting shut down versus these other ones who are, losing transactions.
Gotcha, I was just trying to see if there was a trend to where they're slowly trying to.
Well, they will slowly do that, but again, there was always going to be a need for an agency. There always will be, because even if you renew your driver's license online, you can't do it for 8 years, you can only do it for 4. You'll have to come in. Eventually, you're going to have to come in. Even if it's an 8-year license, you still have to come in to renew it. You still do. Many people don't want to do by mail, they don't want to do online, they don't want to. They've sent for their sticker, they come in and say, I didn't get it. See, they're coming in anyway. So they come in and to get another sticker, we have to charge $6 for a replacement sticker, and then they get mad at us, because I don't know. We need the License Bureau. We need the License Bureau. This area needs the License Bureau. We just do. I'm fighting.
Mrs. Gray, if I may, John, Mr. Tarleton, when he was speaking, you have 6 employees there?
Yes.
So if you were to leave, we'd lose 6 employees, we'd have an empty space in a plaza that would be unfilled. I mean, we'd have 70,000 less helpful transactions to local citizens.
Correct.
Just
Correct.
make sure I'm hearing this
Not to
right.
mention, they just remodeled, and I don't know if you noticed, but the License Bureau, or not the License Bureau, but the plaza,
Parking lot and
they
everything.
just, it's so nice.
Yeah.
I just bought new carpet. I bought new carpet. I'm so frustrated about that, because it was not cheap, and it looks really nice, and, yeah, so, anyway.
What do you think would make a difference? If we were able to get a hold of somebody and try to persuade them, what would be a good argument to be made to try to keep the business here? Because I did do some research on the process of bidding and how
Mhm.
often you can bid and the
Mhm.
deadlines and those things, and they kind of led me to believe, with the people that I talked to, is that, well, the bidding must not have been accepted. But what you're saying is not that case, so
They didn't even give us the opportunity to put the bid in. They removed our agency completely from the list of the agencies that were up for bid. They took us off the list completely.
So do they ever put people back on and allow them to be bid out of turn? Because I know there's cycles. for it.
They do. They
Okay.
do. As a matter of fact, the one in Boardman, the registrar, or the deputy, retired in September. So they did a special bidding, or I should say contract. They did a special one for her office manager, and they remained completely open without any,
Could you provide
disruption.
contact information for her?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Could you
Yeah.
provide contact information for her?
For
the woman that you just described in your episode?
You mean the deputy that
Deputy Register
retired?
for Boardman?
Yeah, she's one of my best friends, so.
That might be helpful.
Yeah, she's one of my best friends. Actually, she was the deputy here first. She was here from 91 to 2001. It was Kathleen Butler. She started the agency. And then they had a rule that in the mix of everything that you had to be adjacent, you had to be in adjacent county. Well, she lived in Trumbull County, and she was working here, so they made it, she couldn't, so she kind of pushed me into this situation, which is fine. It's worked out perfectly okay, but, this was not like my career path. But that's what it turned into. And I just feel like it's a death. Because I walked in the door when we opened, and now they're trying to close the door. And there's just, to me, no justifiable reason. There's just no reason. Again, it's been a sustainable business for 33 years. I don't see 8-year driver's license affecting it, that. And yes, it may. There may be a downturn, but I don't see that as, this business is gonna go under.
People have more vehicles, and there are more people getting into
Yes,
the market of driving.
correct. Yes, I don't understand where they're coming from. So, anyway, yes.
Maybe it was answered, I'm not sure. How does the lack of the downslope of business, why does that matter to them? Doesn't that,
See?
I don't understand how that matters
That's a
to them.
very good question. Because in our last.
Isn't it your business? You're just applying for a license to sell their product? I don't
Correct.
understand
And not
how
only that,
matters.
what they've done to
I don't
us,
get
the deputies in the last probably 5 years, is we now have to, your registrations that you get when you come in, we have to buy the paper now. The deputies do. We have to buy the paper that we print your registration out on.
It's your building, your renting, your expenses. I don't
that's-
understand how that affects them.
I don't either.
If the economy, if the trends, if all that starts.
Right?
I
It
don't
makes no
understand
sense.
No.
It makes no sense. In every
There's gotta
sense
be
of
more to it.
in every sense of that business, it is mine, with the exception of the printers, which we now have to buy the print cartridges for also at $300 a piece. The printers, obviously the computers, the pods that print the stickers, that does not belong to me, that's them.
Robin, Don said one of the things they were thinking about is in the future, we'd be taking business away from Lisbon and Gordon.
What does that mean?
When he asked, why would it matter if we stayed open for to and from Union County, that Lisbon one day wouldn't have that business?
Okay. That's called capitalism.
It's free market economy.
That's right,
Doesn't make
right?
sense.
Again,
Okay.
so we have
I'd rather go to
6
you than
employees.
Lisbon. Why does that
What?
matter?
Yeah, exactly.
Be friendlier in Lisbon, if that's the case. What's the matter?
I don't know, I don't know.
Not saying years from now.
So they say.
It's another profiting.
But again, if that is a projection, then why don't you, because we always have the option of cutting back. We have 6 employees. Well, we can only use 5 now, or we can only use 4. But as long as the business is sustainable, as long as she's, or me, is making a living, and I'm paying my employees, and I'm paying my rent, and I'm paying my payroll taxes, and I'm paying my sales tax, what do they care? I don't understand. So, anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So,
Thank you for the courage to come here and speak. We really appreciate it.
absolutely. I don't want to go down without a fight. So, thank you for your time, and thank you for listening. If you need anything from me, you know where to find me.
Okay, for the report of city officials, Mayor Dickey.
Thank you. So I want to start out with, we have some appointments to committees for the new year that need to be done. Some of them just need to be announced, others need to be confirmed by council. The first one is for the Board of Housing Appeals. It's a 3-year term, and the mayor appointee will be Janet Keene, and no confirmation is required on that. But the other one that does require confirmation by council would be Pat Rigetti. So if we could have a motion.
I'll make the motion to appoint Pat McGee
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Thank you. For the Board of Zoning Appeals, Shauna Latalian would like to be reappointed for a 4-year term, and that does require council confirmation.
Is there a motion for Mrs. Battalion?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Bear?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mrs. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Appointment is confirmed.
Thank you. For the Design Review Board for a 3-year term, the Design Review Board themselves does an appointment of their GLG coordinator, and they have appointed Chip Hank. And then the City Council Liaison, Sarah, did you appoint somebody to that when we had our meeting last week, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's Sarah.
Okay,
we did.
She's, yeah.
okay, so, yeah, and that's who they had requested was Sarah Bear, and that does need council, oh no, that doesn't need council confirmation, because that's an assignment by the president. Let's see, the designated property owner member of the Design Review Board is Meta Kramer, and that requires council confirmation.
So moved.
Ms. Bricker, is there a second? Mr. Zellers?
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Appointment confirmed.
Thank you. On the Parks Commission, for the commission president would be John T. Panzot for a 3-year term, and no confirmation is required. He is that at this time. And then the clerk, by his job description, would be Jacob Logan, the director of parks. And then Salem Planning Commission chairman for a 4-year term would also be John T. Panzot Senior, and no confirmation is required for that. For the Tourism Board, for 3-year terms, we do need confirmation for these 4. And the first one is Megan Ritchie.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Stockman, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Newman?
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Thank you. And the second one is Rich Snyder.
Is there a motion?
So
Mr.
moved.
Knoll, and second?
Second.
Mrs. Bear?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Thank you. And the third one is Brandy Pigeon.
So moved.
Mrs. Bear, is there a second? Mr. Knoll?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Thank you. And to be reappointed would be William Dawes.
Motion.
Mr. Newman, and a second?
Second.
Mr. Gano?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to, a while back, before the new year, we had some discussion about this annexation issue in Perry Township. At that time, council did vote to put a freeze on the annexation so that we would have time to try to find a solution. That freeze is up at midnight tomorrow. But in the meantime, we have been working on this problem. Mr. Gano with his Economic Development Committee and Mr. Hodgson with the Utilities Department, we've all been putting our heads together and trying to find some solutions, and speaking with Mr. Bailey from the Township Trustees. And so what we have done as a city and as the Utilities Department is make an offer to Perry Township to try to solve part of this problem at least, and to make our relationship more equitable and easier to navigate. And so I'm just gonna go through this with you that we did offer. The problem is that Salem has infrastructure but little land inside the city limits. Perry has land but no infrastructure. And so what's happening is that the Perry residents have been asking to annex into the city, and Perry officials have been asking for a share of the improved real estate taxes. And Salem's objection to that is that Perry is not contributing to the cost of the infrastructure that makes that improvement possible. And Perry's objection is that the land is their asset and has value. So the result is, to grow economically, each of us needs each other. And so what we proposed was the city and the Salem Utilities Department offered Perry Township a contract to buy into the Utilities Department as a partner at a dollar value equal to 22% partnership. Salem holds controlling interest, but Perry Township shares in the cost equal to their 22% investment ongoing, and we would rename the department something similar to Salem, Ohio Regional Utilities Department. The expansion and hookups to the residential properties that are already improved would stay in the township and continue to pay the higher non-resident rate and hookup fees. The properties required to annex at the time of the agreement would still annex into the city, which would be, at this time that I know of, there may be others that we don't know of, would be the Butcher property, Salem City Schools property for the new school, and the Fresh Mark expansion. Any new expansion or development in the township would be required to be under a JED or another economic development agreement that allows for an income tax to be established. This way, they stay in the township via a JED, they get utilities, and they get an income tax up to the city's income tax rate. The city and the township split the income tax and the improved real estate taxes on the new area, 2278 percentages, which is what their buy-in is. If the JED property is not eligible for income tax collection, the property would stay out of the city rate, would pay the out-of-city rate for the utilities. All employees of the Utilities Department would stay Salem City employees. The township provides the services to the township residents as prior to the buy-in. The advantages to that are, it allows future growth without annexation to get infrastructure and land. It creates and retains an increased real estate tax for both entities. It gives Perry Township an asset that they need for growth. It creates a contract for JEDs and similar entities to develop easily. It provides Perry Township a mechanism to collect income tax on the developed areas, which they can't do without us. It promotes a better non-competitive relationship between the township and the city. It reduces the city debt in the Utilities Department, which increases the monetary value of the department. It maintains a revenue stream for the department shared by both entities. It helps to attract development to the areas, which enriches both entities economically. It puts the utility departments in a better position to attract grants because it will become a regional utility, which is preferred at this time for grant awards. Under the new JED laws, Perry Township and the City of Salem can more easily join with each other, can more easily join with other surrounding townships and cities and villages if a sizable project comes our way. The disadvantages would be it would cost Perry Township money up front. It would take some increased communication for a smooth transition. Salem would need to give up some of its existing revenues. The township and the City of Salem would be responsible for any debt accrued by the Utilities Department at a 2278 share. The department would need to assess its staffing to meet the growing need of the regional area. So there's, as you can see, there's give and take on both sides, but there's great advantages to both sides. And according to the Sod Center, we have over 200 projects that have come our way recently, wanting land and wanting infrastructure to grow, and we don't have the land and they don't have the infrastructure. So we lose out on that income and those projects that would benefit our entire area, and that's not what we want. We want to work together and all of us profit. So this is something that we are trying to do, and I think it's very generous because we are giving up part of our major asset, something that Perry Township did not invest in years ago when we did. But of course, it comes with a price. You know, in all fairness, we can't just give it away. So we did hear back, Mr. Gano did hear back from the Perry Township trustees, and they are extremely interested in this if they can get the financing. So we have reached out to the Sod Center and to some other entities about trying to help them to find the financing. And this is the only thing that has come to the table at all, is our offer on this. There's been nothing come back from them for any alternatives or any other ideas. But we do really want to work together and make this work for all of us. Because we're kind of in a no-win situation otherwise. We're just either gonna gobble them up, or we're never gonna grow, and then we'll fail. Because we can't maintain a 1% income tax out of the same pockets and do the same services forever. So, that's where we are with that. Yes.
Who put this together?
Well, so the idea came originally from me, but I worked with Mr. Gano and Mr. Hodgson to kind of bring it all together into one big idea. So there's a lot of details in there, and so what we would like to do now is to do something similar to a purchase agreement with the details in it for everyone to sign, to show that we are serious about moving forward on this, contingent upon financing. And it's a big ask. It's a lot of money. Sure.
In that regard, how, it would be a big ask, I'm sure it's a huge number. I don't know how-
A little over $12 million.
So it would be how we value the department.
So we did it generously, very conservatively. Should we sell our water department outright to another entity, it would be much, much higher. But, you know, we are all Perry Township when it comes down to it. It's just that we are the incorporated area inside Perry Township, and we all depend on each other. So we want to be as generous as possible, but we can't give away tax dollars. We have to get something back that is going to bring a profit to all of us and justify the expenditure.
Would it change the makeup of the board, the Utilities Commission, I should say? We've got 3 members now. Are we going to add somebody from Perry Township, or what's the situation?
I think I can answer a few of the questions.
Thank you, Bob.
In the initial discussions of, whether this idea would even be something to pursue, the mayor asked me to put together the value of the total asset, which just to replace water lines in the city is in excess of $100 million. So that number immediately was thrown out. And what we landed on was the amount of money that we have spent for capital expenditures for improvements over the last 10 years and what's coming over the next 4. That number is $52 million. So what we did is we took a look at the number of clients that we have overall, which is a little over 6,400. Perry Township represents 4 or 6% of that number. So what we said to Perry, to the chairman of the trustees, is the buy-in would be 22 point whatever that percentage was of the capital expenditures that we have already done and will be doing over the next couple of years. That number worked out to, I think, 12.6 million. And
289,242.
okay, memory's not all that bad. And then what we also said was, since we would become a regional utility, any capital expenditure going forward would be split on whatever basis the client numbers worked out to. So if we're at 22 and change, and we've got to do repair work on the dam, and it's 6 million, 22 point whatever % of that money would come from Perry Township. On the question that you asked, one of the concerns I raised was we really need to keep the commission in an equal proportion. And obviously, one of 3 members is 33%. That's not workable. So what I suggested is, to the Perry Township, is we become a 5-member board, and 5, 20%, 80% is close to the numbers. That would still allow us, who own the asset, to maintain the control. The biggest hurdle is, first of all, the buy-in, and second of all, is to make sure that when we enter into a capital plan or capital program, that Perry Township is able to afford their portion of it. Yeah, a lot of hurdles yet, but that's the proposal, and they've apparently responded.
I'm sorry, what was that split again? It was 22 or something?
22,
22% they would own.
yeah. That's 22.46, something like that it worked out to.
22.46.
Point 4 or point 6.
Round number.
Yeah, we rounded it to 22 for the discussion. Yeah,
Because I heard whole number and then I heard decimal, so I just wanted to make sure.
yeah.
It was like 21.6 or something, and when you went down to it, so we said, let's just make it 22.
22, yeah. But
I'm not belittling anybody's expertise in this, but I don't see how we can move forward on this unless we have an expert in this field to consult over this. I mean, that's a pretty big,
So what kind of an expert would you think
someone
would
that
be appropriate?
would know how to do this.
Well, I mean,
When
we
we're talking
have-
the money, the assets and all that. How did you establish these figures?
Again, the figures were established by the capital expenditures we've actually done over the last 10 years. And a driver for a lot of that has been the service to Perry Township, because that's where the testing is done. Those are the numbers that we've got to meet for the EPA. So it was a starting point, is the best answer to it.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So you talked to Benish and some of those people about the value of those
Yeah, I can talk to
different plans
Benish and
things
RCAP,
like
maybe
that.
Butch. Yeah, we've got some people we can reach out to.
So a few questions. At this stage, it's just a proposal, and I to take that to mean Perry Township has not accepted nor denied.
Yeah, in the conversation I had with Steve Bailey was, they're intrigued, they're interested. They obviously have to do a lot more research. I mean, that's a pretty significant number.
Oh,
So they're digging into it, and it's, basically, they didn't look at it and say, no way, we're not doing this. They said, yeah, there's some definite merit to that. We want to explore further, we want to pursue it. Could there be roadblocks, that pop up further down, maybe? But at this point in time, they want to do their due diligence and see if it's a feasible.
Oh, absolutely, I would want them to as well. So
Yeah.
but do we have any type of timeline? Are they gonna, we expect you to hit certain milestones? I mean, we're already 6 months into this, right? And
Mhm.
I understand it's a lengthy process, there's a lot that goes into it, but it's certainly not open-ended, right? I mean, do we see something at the end, at least to be able to make a decision?
Yeah, I think, realistically, this is the conversation I had, and relate back to you, was Thursday or Friday of last week, late, when we spoke. So I think realistically, the best thing to do would, once we get through this meeting, call them up, talk, try to get a meeting scheduled, and, I think you said a purchase agreement, or if nothing else, a letter of intent.
Yes.
That, hey, this is, and kind of start to map out what we want it to look like, what type of commitments we want, or they may come back and say, hey, we don't like this part, but we like this part, we want to offer this instead. just start kind of some ideas, and once you start to have a decent outline, I think we can, whether, I don't know if we wanna talk to M&A type people or not, but, start putting together a timeline, and, maybe we have to polish the values a little bit and get it refined, but yeah, this, like you said, this is just a nice starting point. We put the first one out there.
Yeah, one of the things that also was a bit of a driver in putting the idea together, in negotiations with the Attorney General's office and the EPA with the consent decree, one of the things that was brought up to us frequently was the fact that we're going to need to expand services to areas right now that are failing with septic and having difficulty with wells. And there were discussions held about credits against the civil penalty, which we were able to negotiate away, basically. Us doing that. So down the road somewhere in the commission, there is going to be a point where we are going to be required to expand our services out. And we've already seen some of it with North Lincoln with failure of septic systems out on West High. The Heights has come up for discussion with the EPA, so.
Could you provide metrics on that expansion?
Pardon?
Could you provide metrics on that expansion?
Not specific numbers at this point.
But
But
millions of
what we're
dollars.
seeing is people are finding out that their septic system is failing, and it's 25, 26, 27,000 to redo it. It's a lot cheaper to connect to us, but, it goes back to the issue with the annexation. So this was a starting point for a discussion to Perry Township that would create a regional utility.
And that is the buzzword right now, to get
Yeah.
money back into our pockets from the federal and the state government, is to be regionalized. It's, that's one of the things that they're looking for in all these grant applications. They would prefer to give it to a broader area than to just one city. So it would be a definite advantage to both Perry Township and Salem City to get free money.
And I'm just guessing, I don't know this for fact, but I assume as we get bigger, that's gonna require more employees. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Whose employees will they be, and is Perry?
Not really. We're servicing it now.
Okay.
Once a line is in, it reverts to the control of the Salem Utilities Department. We own it, we service it, and again, that's part of the discussion of a monetary buy-in to it.
Now, are they going to share in the cost of the employees as well and the benefits and all that goes? I mean, it's gonna be a total cost, or what's this 22%?
That was not a part of the discussion, because right now the surcharge in effect handles that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And forgive me, you may have already said this, but, so this 22 to 78, that is just strictly on the cost side?
That is for capital,
Capital expenditure?
for buy-in and for future capital projects.
Because there's not a profit that comes back to individuals, it goes into the department. And that's by law.
Yeah. Yeah, by law, we are not even permitted to take money out of the water fund to pay for something on the sewer side.
Without this agreement, if it for some reason falls apart, you would still need to look at, because of the Attorney General and the EPA, the Heights and those other places, to provide water to them, correct or no?
At some point,
You're almost simply,
we're the only purveyor
Yeah, I mean-
that's possible. So at some point, it's going to happen, and it's going to really put some fire on the whole annexation issue. We installed a box on the other side on the west side of 14 a few years ago in anticipation of that, and we are now contiguous to that area.
So when you look at areas like Columbus, Ohio, that expanded far beyond their boundaries, they did that through annexation because they had the infrastructure to go out and provide that to the area. And all those little townships and things around there just got gobbled up. And
You're trying to avoid
Township
this,
does
is
not
what you-
want to be that. They
Right.
want us to maintain a township, and I understand that. And so the way to avoid that is to let them buy in and become part of this regional utilities department, and then we all share in the profits
Oh, I agree with you, 100%.
and the cost.
In absence of any other proposal on the table, this is one that we thought at least needed to be discussed. And that's how we came up with the numbers. We can reach out to RCAP, who does our rate studies, and we can also reach out to Benish. They have quite a bit of expertise.
And so, years ago, back in the late 80s and early 90s, when this whole problem happened with the restricted deeds, this wasn't done to hurt anybody. This was a gesture that was made because development was happening outside the city, and this was a way to get them utilities with the promise of future revenues for the city at some point when they became able to annex. The problem is now, all these years later, people have changed their mind. People don't want to do it for whatever reason, which I'm not even really sure what all the reasons are. And so now we're kind of in a bad position where there's hard feelings and there's bad, if as a Salem City income tax, paying an income tax for Salem City, I don't want to have to finance the water bill of other people who don't pay income tax. That doesn't seem fair. And they don't really want to become us. They'd rather pay more money to get the water, but the problem is that doesn't really cover it all. And so if we really charge them what it's costing us to extend those lines and connect those lines and treat that water in those dead-end lines, they wouldn't be able to afford it, and that's not the solution either. What would they do? They don't have room now to put in septic systems and to put in wells. And some of them are in areas that I'm not sure they could even do a well. So they're kind of stuck, and the feelings are not good. We don't want to continue to foster that. We want to give them the opportunity to invest now in what they didn't invest in earlier, and all of us make money.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Bob.
And that concludes my report.
Law Director, Attorney Zellers.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't have any formal report, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
The 911 resolution?
I think other than yourself and maybe Mrs. Bear, I'm not sure I heard back from anybody else.
I just knew it was due, the 26th or something, and did we, as a council, have to formally do anything, or is it
If
just
you
a
wanted
show?
to support one of those people or one of your own, we would have needed to do something, but, it wasn't required to do so, but
Okay, I just wasn't sure if we were supposed to do anything.
one to nominate you, but not.
I'm not-
You're not busy.
Too much on the plate, I think.
No, I would
Yes or
just,
no?
I would still go with my statement that I would defer to Chief Mason's recommendation, so. That's all.
Thank you. That's it.
Auditor, Mr. Salvino.
Thank you. Basically, tonight, the only thing that I have, just to make sure that we get somebody paid from the water plant, assistant water plant manager. If you guys go to page 3, 03 is the last ending numbers. We're not redoing the entire ordinance, but basically it's being an ordinance to supersede ordinance 01, establishing and adjusting salary. So we just need to add in the assistant water plant manager that was not in the wage ordinance 2 weeks ago. So that's the first one. The second one would be in a yearly resolution to accept a donation from the Columbiana County Commissioners and express appreciation. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Safety and Services Director, Mr. Capizzello.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple updates where we are on some of our projects. The Birchfield Trace Alley is just about finished. We're going through the punch list, cleaning up some things. It is lit, though, during the evenings, and the music is playing from 8 in the morning till 10 at night. We're going to be doing some training on both of those things here in the coming weeks to be able to change the lights and the music. So we're really excited about having that taking place and people to be able to use that and the municipal parking lot behind Ezio's. Lincoln Plaza is moving along. We had another meeting. We have a meeting every 2 weeks. Foundations are in the process of being poured, weather permitting, and we are going to tent that, as I told previously, and they'll start on the gazebo here in the coming weeks. Snow removal is going as planned. Street Department's doing a bang-up job. They're out there all hours of the night and day. We have plenty of salt, so we should be in good shape in that regards. And we'll have an upcoming Super Cruise meeting. Denny Pleggy is the chairman of that. He set it for January 25th at 6 o'clock. That's the end of my report, Madam President, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Donnelly does not have a report this evening. Parks Director, Mr. Logan.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no formal report.
Great, thank you. Report of standing committees, the Finance Committee, Mr. Knoll.
Madam President, could we go back to report of city officials real quick? So with regards to the treasurer, I know Todd's not here tonight, but per Ohio Revised Code, every year he's supposed to give council a report annually, and it's supposed to be the first meeting of January. So I would like to officially request that he give that report.
Thank you. Has your Finance Committee met?
My finance committee has not met, so as a result, I have no report.
Thank you. Public Relations Committee, Mr. Zellers.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report.
Oh, did I say Public Relations? Could you imagine if you handled our public relations?
That's where I was thinking of.
Public Services, sorry. Residential Committee, Mr. Newman.
My committee has not met, Mrs. President, therefore I have no report.
Thank you. Downtown Committee, Mrs. Bear.
Our committee has not met, but I did attend the Downtown Salem Partnership meeting, and they spoke about the upcoming farmers market, and they asked their local businesses in the total of Salem to please put their events and their businesses on the Visit Salem, Ohio webpage so that they are available to all potential customers. Thank you.
Thank you. Rules and Ordinances, Mr. Stockman.
Thank you, Madam President. We held a committee meeting prior to this council meeting. I will have full minutes to read into the, full minutes from our meeting, to read into the minutes of our meeting, next council meeting.
Thank you. Safety Committee, Ms. Bricker.
Thank you, Madam President. Our committee has not met, therefore I have no report.
Thank you. Economic Development, Mr. Gano.
Thank you, Madam President. My committee has not met, and I do not have a report this evening.
And Committee of the Whole, Mr. Knoll.
The committee of the whole has not met, so I have no report.
Great, thank you. Introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Knoll, tonight you have ordinance 3 and resolution 4.
This book, as far as the ordinance 03, the wage ordinance, do I need to, is it revised? Because what was it, the
Assistant water plant manager got left out.
Yeah. So,
Are you asking to suspend council rules, or what are you asking?
do I need to, is this a revision, or is it as is because the prior ordinance didn't have that in it, or since we have it in front of us, just go about the normal business? I guess I'm asking for advice.
I think because we made that change, and then we added a whole other player in there, my recommendation would be suspend council rules statutorily if you're inclined to pass it.
Okay. So having said that, I would like to make a motion to waive council rules this evening. So ordinance 240116-03 may be introduced this evening.
Is there a second? Mr. Stockman.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Council rules are suspended. Mr. Knoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to waive statutory rules as well. So ordinance 240116-03 may have all three readings with the emergency clause for passage this evening.
Is there a second? Mr. Newman?
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Statutory rules are suspended. Mr. Knoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the clerk read by title only ordinance 240116-03 for passage this evening.
Madam Clerk, will you please read ordinance 3 by title only?
Being an ordinance to supersede ordinance 240102-01, establishing and adjusting salaries, wages, and other benefits for non-represented city employees and non-represented city and elected officials of the city of Salem, Ohio, repealing all prior inconsistent ordinances herewith and declaring an emergency.
Discussion on ordinance 3. Go ahead, Becky.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ordinance 3 has passed. Mr. Knoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the clerk read by title only resolution 240116-04 for passage this evening or acceptance.
Actually, this one does have legislative effect. You would have to, so I think we, in order to accept that money and put it in that line item. I can't remember, we've been doing this so long, this one. For some reason, this one seemed different than our typical donation ones, and I think required all of the formalities.
Okay.
I don't recall why.
Requires us to provide an officer for that
Yeah, I
position.
think that's the reason. So I think there was a reason for this one, other than like the generous donations from Walmart or whether otherwise, but this one's different. I think requires all the bells and whistles.
Okay. So let's go back here for a moment.
Rewind.
Exactly. So I make a motion to waive council rules this evening. So resolution 240116-04 may be introduced this evening.
Is there a second? Mr. Stockman?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mrs. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Council rules are suspended. Mr. Knoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to waive statutory rules this evening, so resolution 240116-04 may have all three readings for passage this evening.
Is there a second? Mr. Zellers?
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Statutory rules are suspended. Mr. Knoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the clerk read by title only, read resolution in its entirety for passage this evening.
Madam Clerk, will you please read resolution 4?
Being a resolution to accept a donation to the city of Salem from the Columbiana County Commissioners and to express appreciation for their generous donation of $20,000 for the purposes of defraying costs of police officers assigned on a part-time or full-time basis to the Columbiana County Drug Task Force and declaring an emergency.
Discussion on resolution 4. Go ahead, Becky.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Ms. Bear?
Yes.
Mrs. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Resolution 4 has passed. Mr. Stockman.
Brooke, I do have a small question on this one. I don't have to suspend council rules on this because we had it 24 hours prior to this, as well as I had a meeting about it, correct?
I think the meeting and it has to also be 24 hours ahead of time.
Okay.
So if you intend to pass it tonight, I would recommend that
Do.
you suspend council
All
rules.
right. Not an issue. I just didn't know which to do the whole gamut. Thank you, Madam President. I move the council suspend council rules so that ordinance 240116 can be considered tonight.
Is there a second? Ms. Bricker?
Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Council rules are suspended. Mr. Stockman.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to suspend statutory rules so that ordinance 240116 can be read first, second, and third readings tonight.
Is there a second? Oh, I'm sorry, ordinance dash 05.
What? It's
Just a
240116.
point of order, he only read the date, not the numbering, so.
Oh,
241016-05.
you left off the 05.
When you read the ordinance.
Oh. I got
Whole
it.
thing.
Yep, sorry.
Is there a second? Mr. Newman?
I was reading off the ordinance.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Statutory rules are suspended. Mr. Stockman.
Madam President, I move the clerk read ordinance number 240116-5 by title only for its first, second, and third readings with the emergency clause for passage tonight.
Madam Clerk, will you please read ordinance 5 by title only?
Being an ordinance establishing a temporary moratorium on the issuance of building permits and/or certificates of occupancy for any building, structure, use, or change of use that would enable the cultivation, processing, or retail sale of recreational marijuana and declaring an emergency.
Discussion on ordinance 5.
I just have one question. Is there a time limit on what temporary is, or is it if we decide to lift it as a council? Or I just wanna make sure.
Both. Number one, to answer the first part of the question, yes, it's a 12-month moratorium. The second thing is it's in the ordinance that we can get out of it at any time if we come to an agreement on the different laws and rules and things that have to deal with issue 2. Yes, sir.
Also, are we able, if we decide, I know with the new, was it issue 1 or 2, whichever one it was that passed, now that's state law, are we able to, as a city, is it question for you?
Yes.
We can ban it if we wanted to? just
Yes, same as we
prohibit it?
did with the medical marijuana, but that's not what this is doing. This is giving us time to discuss it, so,
Yeah.
in the interim.
Yep.
To be honest with you.
Okay.
It's nothing to do with, just puts a pause on it, because we also don't know the state rules either.
Yeah.
The state hasn't made up their rules for it.
Yep.
They passed it and don't know the rules for it yet.
Gotta pass it, so know what's in it.
Okay. Mr. Stockman?
Yes.
Mr. Zellers?
Yes.
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Ms. Bricker?
Yes.
Mr. Gano?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Bless you.
Ordinance 5 has passed. Pleasure of council, Mr. Stockman.
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
No pleasure.
No pleasure tonight.
Ms. Bricker.
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zellers.
I have nothing either. Thank you.
Mrs. Bear.
No comment, thank you.
Mr. Newman.
I'd just like to thank the folks who came out and spoke on the BMV issue. It is very pressing, and I think that it is something that the council should get behind in terms of advocating for. I'd also just like to thank all of our first responders who are out clearing snow, whether that be that or keeping the utilities on in these sub-zero temperatures we're dealing with.
Mr. Gano.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to formally recommend that the mayor's office set up a PR office and have Councilman Zellers be the chair of that.
You had to pay me a lot more money.
And then the second thing, I guess, I don't know, can I cede part of my time to anybody that wants to make a comment on the floor? If anybody would like to make a comment?
Mr. Tarleton.
Thank you for your comment about,
You're welcome.
I thought about something that I was hopefully going to be able to ask, but Mrs. Gray just left. I went through several of my vehicle registration forms today, and maybe you folks should go home and look at yours. Right-hand side down towards the bottom, there's a fee that goes to the city of Salem for every one of those that's issued. One of them, on mine was $20. Most of the rest of them were 10. If that Bureau of Motor Vehicles gets canned here in town, are we gonna lose all that money that everyone, I mean, that's just me, about $100 a year that I'm paying the city out of those fees. What about all the trucking firms, RK Camp, that probably gets his license plates for here? Sinsley Towing's got 5 or 6 trucks on the road. Is all that money that shows on every one of those license forms gonna not come to Salem anymore?
It stays here.
You sure about that?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
You get those if you do them online too, you start to pay that, and we get it.
Okay, well, that's a good answer.
But that's a good, that's a good thought, because who knows?
I hope that you folks and other people, if you need some help, can volunteer to help you and get something done about this. I mean, listening to Mrs. Gray, she mentioned a lot of stuff that I never even thought of. I think it's gonna be a great loss to the community if we do lose it.
I agree.
Thank all of you for what you do, and again, for you to do, you just proved me true tonight with all that stuff you've gone through.
I just talk a lot, that's all.
Thank you, Madam President.
Yeah, have a good night. Mr. Knoll?
I have nothing, thank you.
I would just like to thank Mr. Tarleton and Mrs. Gray for coming tonight. So, thank you. Meeting's adjourned.
On your motions there.
Oh, it's sneezing. Oh, yeah.
So much so that you're ready to take out a microphone.
Tried to redirect it. I'm heading to Chicago Saturday morning for a trade show.